guys, and welcome to the Good Old Days podcast, where we love sharing stories from the homestead. So anything gardening, animals, DIY projects, and just adventures around the homestead. We are super excited to have you guys here with us for our first episode. So pull up a chair as we connect with other homesteaders and share stories and tell you guys about everything we love about homesteading. For our first episode, I thought it would be fun to dive into how we got started in homesteading. But before we get started, if you don't know us, I am Deanne and this is my husband, Jamie. We are the creators behind the blog and the YouTube channel, Hummingbird Acres, and now the creators behind the podcast, The Good Old Days. So we are super excited to share with you guys our homesteading adventures, and if you want to see more of those, you can head on over to Instagram, to YouTube, and our website, and learn more about us and our homestead. I've left all of those links for you guys below in the show notes. So today, Jamie and I are going to tell our story of how we got into homesteading, and I believe our stories are just a little bit different.
In what way?
In what way? Mm-hmm. So for me, I think our jump into homesteading started in the spring of 2020. Mm-hmm. We were in Virginia. We were at the Sedalia Center. We were camping there to get away from our day-to-day quarantining compound. And we told the center that as part of us being there, we would do some work around the center. And we said we would clean up the front flower bed, which was completely riddled with poison ivy.
Yes.
And Jamie here is very highly allergic to poison ivy.
Very much so.
Like hospitalized allergic to poison ivy. So here we were in a different state. Our daughter, our youngest daughter, was only maybe 2.5 months, 3 months old.
About that, yeah.
And the last thing I needed was for him to be in the hospital because of poison ivy during COVID in a different state with an infant. So, as soon as we found the poison ivy, we stopped everything that we were doing and took a break. And I went inside and I got on the computer and I typed into Google ways to get rid of poison ivy. And I got 2 websites came back. One was the 10th Acre Farm, and Amy had a great article on how to get rid of poison ivy. And then I found the website Homestead and Chill, and they had a great article on how to get rid of poison ivy as well. Both options were not something that were going to be solved like that day. So we never did finish cleaning that flower bed because we weren't able to get rid of the poison ivy like immediately. But both of those websites, 10th Acre Farm and Homestead and Chill, opened up our eyes to permaculture and homesteading. And from there, I feel like that's when we jumped into all things homestead. I mean, we came home from that trip with big plans for the garden, which we really hadn't talked about. I think I started my first sourdough starter at that point. So like we literally jumped like head first into all things homesteading, anything that we could do on our current property. So that's where I feel like my version of where we started homesteading. So I'm interested to see what your version is of how we got into this whole homesteading thing.
Well, I think I've always kind of been into it a little bit. Just because I've always had to have like a garden or something like that.
Okay.
And I think that you having this experience and having somebody else to jump on board just really kind of expanded and exploded the whole thing and put us on a different path. I mean, it's one thing to have one person who has, a decent sized garden to do some stuff with, but then it's a whole different ballgame when you have 2 people working for a common goal and you basically put in, 10, 11 more beds to work with.
Oh, yeah, granted, those beds didn't go in 2020.
No, but I mean, the plan was to do that.
Yeah, we came up with that plan.
Yeah, and then I think they were there by spring of 21.
The spring of 21 they were there.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's very good to have a partner in crime, so to say, to explore all these options with and get dirty with, really.
I think it's a good way of putting it. A partner in crime. We do have a tendency to, or maybe it's me, have a tendency to come up with these crazy ideas in the car most of the time. And
I'm a captive audience, so I have to listen.
most of the time, I would say about 99% of those time, those ideas, really they're our goals, they come to fruition. They do.
Been about 100% success rate thus far. Yep.
Yeah. So that is how we got
Not without hiccups or anything like that.
well, of course. So that is how we got into homesteading, and we have our 4 kiddos that we tag along with us in this adventure. They each have things that they love to do with us and other things that they don't love to do with us.
True.
But
we try to include them as much as possible.
Yeah.
And nurture the same kind of love that we have for playing in the dirt.
Yeah.
Where it's going to, benefit us rather than just playing in the dirt to get dirty.
So that is our story about how we got into homesteading. We are super excited for this podcast. Can't wait to tell you guys more stories about us and our homestead, and we would love to have you guys as guests on this homestead. So in the show notes, I'm going to put a simple link for you guys to this episode so you can see the show notes, and then also a link to our website so you can fill out our simple form, tell us a little bit about your story, and send us a message, and we can get started talking about how you can be featured on our podcast and tell your homesteading story. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today, and we will talk to you soon.